Hey, welcome everyone. Today we are talking about authentic success and how you can crush self-doubt and thrive with the right allies. And we have two very authentic women here with us today to share how to do that. And they are Fatima Oguz and Cressy. And they're both directors of engineering at Qualcomm. You'll see very soon that they're both very authentic in their own ways. That's the point of being authentic. What I've noticed is Fatima has this very elegant and graceful demeanor about her, and she's all about the big picture thinking. She's a think tank. And then Shri, you'll notice her passion come through. She has this beautiful energy about her that is absolutely contagious. And she does not shy away about speaking her mind unapologetically, and she gets stuff done. So I'm really excited to talk about authenticity with these two wonderful ladies here today. So welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
Eva. Yes, thank you really for having us on your show. We're just both super excited to be here. Topics that we'll cover today are incredibly important, and we are delighted to discuss it on this platform. So thank you.
All right. So one of the things that is part of our lives, especially as women, is imposter syndrome. It happens a lot in self-doubt. Is that something that you've experienced before?
Absolutely. I think it's important to start by recognizing that we all, at some point in time in our career journey, do experience imposter syndrome. Many of you might already be familiar with Michelle Obama's open struggles with imposter syndrome as she addressed it in her book called Becoming. So, in the tech industry, imposter syndrome is actually quite prevalent among women, as women are different from the majority of the peers in their field. So, of course, having someone who knows your work, who knows what you're capable of, reach out for you can certainly reinforce what you can bring to the table and your belief in yourself. Many women experience imposter syndrome during the moments of transition in their careers, and that was the case for me. In the past, when I received one of my promotions, I knew that unfortunately certain colleagues assumed, albeit wrongfully, that I received that position because I was a woman. And knowing this can certainly make one feel insecure and can really basically cause person to doubt their own abilities. Now, how I went about overcoming that, I really focused on knowing what I'm good at, right? And that is building strong relationships that are really founded in trust, finding the potential in the people that are on my team, right? As a leader, that is my responsibility, and helping them excel in their career journey, fostering a culture that is founded on psychological safety, and basically expanding my network by gaining even more allies. So all of this certainly made me a better leader because I was just courageously open, compassionate, and ready to try, fail, and grow together with my team.
Imposter syndrome is certainly something that many women have spoken to me about. I have felt it myself and continue to feel it. Men have also said it to me. Definitely, it's something that is afflicting the masses across the board in the tech industry, it seems. I have definitely felt it and conquered it and feel it again and conquer it again and feel it again and conquer it again. So it's a work in progress. One time I acutely felt it was when my boss once called me in and he was talking about a very important project at this time. This was several years ago. And he said, this is a project that would go to the A plus team, literally. And we were talking about the project. And he then said, so would you like to take it on? And I thought he went mad. I was like, what are you talking about? Me? Who are you talking to? And he was like, no, you. Would you like to take it on? And I said, okay, because I don't say no. I said yes. And I walked out of his office going, okay, I don't know what's happening, but clearly he seems to think I can do it. So maybe I should and can. And I had to like really push past that feeling of having to be able to rise to the occasion, rise to the challenge, and just put thoughts at bay, those thoughts that were going to niggle at me to say, you can't do this. What are you doing? To be able to just say, clearly someone thinks I can do it. I think Fatima also alluded to that. When someone puts that trust in you, to just say, well, let me not overthink this. And just, yeah, we all enter that room of doom of this imposter syndrome, and to just find that exit and just quickly get out. And so.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Shri was saying. As I noted at the beginning, everyone struggles through the imposter syndrome. But I think what's important is that we take time to really challenge those thoughts, right? And one way of accomplishing that is really making a continuous learning a priority, right? And adopting this growth mindset, right? Don't fall into that fixed mindset space. Instead, be more open-minded and surround yourself with those who are successful, right? Because that will also help you out.
Yeah. Also, in mind is a funny thing, because if I wanted to find the negative, it's there in any situation, everywhere.
Yep.
If I want to find the positive, it's there too. So it's, do I take the negative and spiral down, which I have done, and sometimes it still happens, or do I just say, forget it, and just take the positive and go with that, run with that instead? And I'm finding, as I continue to gain more and more experience, that I would rather be in this positive space to be able to just, if someone says I'm good, I'll just take their word for it.
Yeah. But along the journey, the failures will happen. And I think it's incredibly important to just acknowledge those and identify the lessons that one learns, right? That's how we basically build our confidence and get better and better over time.
Yeah, and grow, right? And to understand it's each of our individual journey. And so we're going to do it our way. And which means if we have to fall, we can fall. But important, like Fatima said, pick up, learn, tweak, and move on if needed. Yeah.
And move on. And what I find interesting, there's similarities and contrast between the two examples that you shared. Shri, you talked about someone who actually believed in you more than you believed in yourself in that moment, and you leaned on to that. You chose to lean in and say, okay, someone's believing in me, so let's say yes, let's go with it. While in Fatima's example, it was the opposite. Someone was disbelieving in you and didn't think that you deserved that role. And then what you did was you leaned in to other people and not them. So you chose to lean into those allies, those right people that were supportive. And so choosing, and going back to the element of choice that you talked about, Shri, choosing the people and the messages that we want to lean into, which is the more positive side of things. I think that's a brilliant strategy that both of you used.
I do want to just make one thing very clear. Both, obviously, Shri and I, we worked incredibly hard to get to where we are, right? But the fact that we work in a male-dominated industry, and the fact that diversity is becoming more and more important for the companies, every time a woman is transitioning throughout her career, it is very common to have colleagues question that and say, oh, it could be that because she's a woman, she is moving one level up, right? But I do want to recognize the fact that, yes, indeed, I worked incredibly hard, but had it not been for the sponsors, the people who also believed in me, I really wouldn't be where I am today. So just want to make sure I clarify that.
Yeah, I think a lot of women in these male-dominated areas experience both the negatives, the situations where people don't believe in them, and also a couple situations where people do believe. And I think knowing how to leverage those two situations and navigate through them is key, like you demonstrated.
And not just listening to the negative, right? Like it's so easy. Like Pretty Woman said, yeah, the bad stuff is easier to believe and focus on. Just don't go with those. Try to figure out a way to also listen to the positive reviews, right? Don't just fixate on the negative. And I've done it, so I know, and it's easier said than done, but it's a journey to try to, like, if someone says you're good or XYZ is good about you or it's fine, it's so nice to just say, all right, good, and move on.
Yeah, it just reminded me of something. Both of you have family members outside of the country, right?
Yep.
And so my in-laws are here in the US, my family is back in Brazil, and every time there's something in the news, you know how news is catastrophic, like the world's gonna fall, it's so negative. And my in-laws are like, oh my gosh, Ivna, is your family okay? Is everybody dying? Is everybody safe? I'm like, what are you talking about? We humans are attracted to negativity sometimes, to catastrophizing things. But if we make a choice to not to do, then really good things can come out of it.
And the path, the little thread that can help you push past that to look at this other stuff, the bigger picture, whatever it is, the thing at hand. Yeah.
All right. So belonging is a huge topic, right? And I think it's so important for us to find belonging, especially when we are a minority in a group. And so, how did you find belonging while remaining authentic to yourself, even in a place that is male dominated?
How can I not talk about the Qualcomm Women's Employee Network? It is one of the best things about being a woman and being at Qualcomm. I think that we have such awesome programs, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the vice president of the Qualcomm Women's Employee Network and Fatima is the president. We just love the programs. We have mentorship programs, networking, and every time I have heard this, when I first did Strengths Finder, it was like a revelation moment. I think that really helped in my journey of like understanding of this. We can look at positive things, really? That's allowed. We don't have to focus on that type of thing. I think that just knowing that everyone is going through the same journey, similar journey, you're not alone. And you, it's not like, okay, I'll get to this level and then I have arrived and I won't have any more of these negative feelings. It's not like that. It's a understanding that every level there's different challenges and opportunities to overcome. So I think that being a part of this network has been amazing and continues to be amazing. And I think that that is a great sense of belonging. I didn't think it would be so great. It's like greater than what I thought it would be. That's mine. And before I was mainly involved in this, I would seek out the women and feel that kinship and go on this journey together. And, that helped as well.
Yeah, maybe I can then add to that. The way I personally found a sense of belonging was through the women peer group here at Qualcomm that was initiated by our VP, Rashmi Char, who is actually the executive sponsor of one of the executive sponsors of Qualcomm's largest employee network, which is Qualcomm Women, as Shri noted. She reached out to women and she said, look, I would like to have a speakership club for women put together, and anyone interested in volunteering? And I jumped right on it without really knowing what I was getting into, but I said, sure thing. I am very much interested to chair this. So that really opened up the door for just so many possibilities. I became more confident and not afraid to speak up and share my ideas. Being suddenly surrounded by so many women, I recognize how these unique perspectives and experiences from women, hearing them more, right, all bring value to the team and obviously company too. In addition to that, the way I found that sense of belonging is looking for mentors, because they provided, and I continue to do that, right? They provide guidance, support, and advice for us how to navigate through our workplace and our career journey in general. So I think I would encourage everyone, especially if you are in a male-dominated environment, to just look out for these employee networks. And if there isn't one, go ahead and get it started, because that will absolutely help you build your confidence and certainly develop your skills.
Yeah. And there is this feeling, and I know we've talked about this in some of our programs and workshops, this perfectionism that a lot of times I think we get trapped into, right? Unless I'm speaking perfectly. I don't want to get up there and speak unless I'm saying the absolute right things. I don't want to really say anything. And to slowly come out of that and to be able to say, it's okay. If I spoke and I sounded nervous, I'm okay with that. And did my message come across? Was I able to engage, and to what can I do differently next time? And just to own it and move on and try to do different next time, if possible. Practice, whatever it takes, right? Like just understand, but doing it, but just putting yourself out there to do it. Sometimes I really appreciate Fatima. She comes prepared. She voices her questions. She will not just passively come to any meeting. And I learn from that. I think, okay, this is good. I'm glad that there's a voice that we can hear who is a female voice. It's important. And we also talked about this, being part of Qualcomm Women Employee Network, being a part of all the leadership programs within that our employee network. We got used to talking to executives. So now when we are in meetings and in with executives, we just forge ahead and we know we'll just move forward and just get it done and feel pretty decent about it. Actually, everything helps. Being a part of this network has just given so much. Wow. Yeah, it's just the benefit of it has been more than just running the programs, or just it's just been such a great, yeah, I don't know the word.
Widen the horizons, that's for sure. And
yes.
Thank you, Shri, for your kind words. I do want to say that for me, working with Shri has just been an amazing experience. She is the kind of person, when you look at the cup, it is half full. She always looks at everything with these positive lenses. And it's just so incredibly important to really surround yourself with people like that who will give you different perspectives at the issues that you might be facing. So it's just.
Thank you, Fatima. Appreciate it.
Let me ask you a question around this. Have you felt throughout your career that increasing that sensing of belonging, right? Feeling like you belong more, be it with the mentors, be it through the women's group, does that help you, or has it helped you speak up more and feel more confident speaking up?
Yes, absolutely. It is very important to actually recognize the fact that in the industry out there where the female excuse me, where the female representation is low, it is challenging for women to have that sense of belonging. And research actually has shown that women tend to actually rate themselves as having less technical skills and job experience than their male counterparts with equivalent skill set and experience, right? So this type of assessment can certainly be very problematic. It can pose a risk for the women advancement in her career. And having an opportunity to surround yourself with so many women will most certainly, as I noted before, help you build your confidence and realize that, you know what, I am bringing something to the table here, and it is important, and it is going to help company as a whole.
Yeah. And I think that there's something to be positive, right? I tend to be positive, and maybe I do toxic positivity. I don't know, whatever it's called these days, but I'd rather be in that space than the toxic negativity, because it's tough to pull out of that. And it's I feel like a sinkhole. So when I'm surrounding myself, I'm observing, I'm also looking, I'm attending meetings. And if there's one woman and she's speaking out, I'm noticing what she's saying and how she's saying it. And I'm going to use that for my own, emulate it, right? Just be confident. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it confidently. If that's what my mind is telling me, what you're doing, then I'll say, okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, but let me do it confident and just see. So learning, going along and picking up, and yeah, not everybody knows or are doing the right thing at all the right times. So having a little bit of that empathy, like I might be catching Fatima on an off day and she might be a little short with me. I'm not going to hold that against her forever and ever. I'm going to be like, yeah, she's sleep deprived and XYZ. So I'm going to be so understanding that if somebody is not just like putting it all on them, other people, to say, okay, if you're not going to behave, I'm not going to behave, but be able to say, okay, let me cast a wider net, or let me see what's going on, and let me see, okay, they're doing this. Maybe I don't want to do that. So let me model after somebody else. Men, women, whoever. It's about what connects with you. And because that's the best kind of advice, right? Sometimes we notice we keep asking people for advice until we get to the advice that rings true for us. So it's like that. It's being able to connect to something that you can emulate or you feel a connection with, and then helping yourself along the way and seeing if you can help others, whether it's upward facing or equivalent or your people that you're leading, just to be able to be of that kind of help.
Absolutely. So what I've noticed around belonging that both of you said, there's a word which is seek out. Teresa, you said you sought out women, and then Fatima sought out mentors, and both of you volunteered to create and run these different groups of women. Fatima, you started out with the speakership club, and then you're both running the women's group now. It really shows that sometimes we need to seek out the belonging that we want rather than just wait for it to come to us. And I love how you both were proactive about it.
Yeah. And sometimes people get a little jaded or just think that, okay, I don't want to be a part of this huge network where, as a senior member, I have to come in and do. And it's so funny because the people that seem to get the most out of the programs, let's pick a mentorship program, are the mentors. You would think it's the mentees who are benefiting the most, but it really, like, from the feedback that we get, it seems that the mentors are the ones that are having the biggest takeaways. And what a great way to train mentors, and the mentors are both men and women, to train people at the upper levels, at leadership positions, with people problems. If women are speaking and saying, this is the issue that I'm trying to get past as a mentee, and your mentor is hearing that, they can actually take it back to their own teams and say, oh, I wonder if the folks that are working with me feel the same way. It's just, what a program that keeps on giving. And what is that?
I said it's win-win for everyone.
It's win. Yeah, absolutely. Through and through. Yeah.
Wonderful. How about this other aspect? How have you been able to leverage networking in affinity groups?
Okay, maybe I'll start. When I studied computer science, which is many years ago, female representation was very low. And then when I started working in the tech industry, that unfortunately did not change much. So it really took time for companies to realize that diversity, equity, and inclusion is really at the forefront of business success. And thanks to Qualcomm Women Employee Network, I have had, and both Shri and I have had an amazing opportunity to just meet so many wonderful individuals and build these meaningful relationships. And this experience as a whole really has pushed us out of our comfort zone. It allowed us to establish so many connections, and just it provided access to incredible resources, which then, of course, enabled us to further advance our employee network and then look out for ways our group can not just benefit the culture, community, career of our members, but it can also have a very positive impact on the business of our company.
That was a fantastic comeback, Fatima. I don't know how to top that. Yeah, it is. I have been feeling it more and more. And I always say back to Fatima, just the way that we have had to be engaged in Qualcomm Women's Employee Network, the way we've had to push ourselves, it has unknowingly widened and opened up our repertoire, so to speak, and just things, and the way that the confidence is coming up is, I didn't even know like it was possible. And we are definitely in this together, Fatima and I, and it comes up daily. It can come up weekly. Like I said earlier on, we got to meet so many executives and these are the executives of Qualcomm, and these are the folks we work with as well in our day jobs. So it's just they're getting to know us, and there's something to be said for that, right? It's if somebody doesn't know you, they cannot speak for you, but when they get to know you, they know you exist and they can think of your name and put your name in the hat, perhaps. So this is leverage, isn't it? And for people to just, we know our DEI folks, we know people in other organizations, and we are just any kind of anything that comes up, even in our day jobs, we're able to say, oh, maybe we should talk to this person and be able to network with them and see how we can work together. The scope is just limitless. I think being brave and courageous and undertaking this big role as being the leads for this employee network, just the amount of strategic thinking, it's not far from what we might have to do in our day jobs too. So I think that this has been a very key learning experience that is, I wish everyone can be a member of some employee network, active members, do things, put yourself out there, because you have no choice but to learn on how to make things happen. And that is the key in life, knowing how to make things happen.
Yeah. And both of you mentioned taking on leadership roles within these groups is the best way to go, or one of the best ways to go, because you'll get so much more out of it.
Absolutely. No, going all the way back to imposter syndrome, I do confide in Fatima, and I still struggle with it and walk past it, but I definitely enter that room still and try to find the quickest exit out of there. And then I'll invoke my experience. I'll invoke what I do. And if I happen to forget, then Fatima will invoke it for me. What are you talking about? You were just there last week talking to XYZ and doing ABC. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. And yeah.
Which speaks to importance of really having someone that you can rely on, someone who is there to remind you of all the great things that you're capable of. It really helps you build that self-confidence and recognize that, yeah, I got this, I can get this done.
And get rid of that yucky voice that's trying to tell you otherwise.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I must say I love the partnership the two of you have. I hope I have something like that at some point. It's really lovely.
Imna, I am just incredibly grateful for having Shri in my life. The way we go about it, I see us as yin and yang, right? We just find ways to balance things. When I get worked up about something, she's there to calm me down and really provide perspectives that I really wouldn't think of. It's just, I'm so grateful for having her there.
And I'll tell you, if Fatima wasn't there, I would have the biggest starting trouble. And sometimes even in my day job, she'll be like, Shri, go. And she'll just push me, shove me. And I'll be like, I must do it. So I think it's just that perfect partnership. And I did not have this until I signed up leadership position. I knew Fatima, but this is where we're like putting it into practice. And really, we're in this journey together, aren't we? Whatever it is we're having to do for Qualcomm Women's Employee Network. Now we're bringing like 50%, 50%, or 100%, 100% to make it 1,000%. Just there's some synergy that's really working, I think. So we'll just go with that.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you discovered your partnership in how well it worked only after you started collaborating together in a leadership role.
Yes. We knew
each other before, but the fact that we had to work very closely together just open up this door to so many possibilities.
And it is so funny. Recently, Fatima was saying that she had to talk someone else off the ledge, so to speak. And I was like, oh, wow. And she was invoking me. Fine. And I said, you've got this. You're doing this now. And there's many times when I'll be like, okay, how would Fatima do this? Just jump in and just go for it. And it's nice. We're learning from each other. And that is a very important thing that I try to tell some of the young engineers is you never arrive right? It's always a learning, because every step of the way brings its challenges. Maybe I sit here and think, oh, if you're a senior VP, you're done. Or if you're CEO, that's it. You've reached the pinnacle, you're done. You're not done. You get there and it's like a complete different playing field, and it comes with its own challenges of being there. And you have to learn again on how to handle that, and deal with it, and work through it, and like it, dislike it, and arrive wherever you need to arrive.
Yeah, so learning is so important. In the context of speaking up, have either of you ever experienced backlash or retaliation or any sort of negative consequence for speaking up? And what did you learn from the experience?
Let's face it, we all have seen examples of women facing backlash for speaking up in various domains, whether that's media, politics, business, academia, etc. But the one that I personally want to share, and the one that really stands out for me, is actually about Indra Nooyi, who was the chairman and the CEO of PepsiCo. I don't know how many of you might be familiar with her, but she was consistently ranked among the world's 100 most powerful women. As a senior executive, she often obviously sat in these meetings with the management team, debating strategies, tactics, right? And she was always very well prepared, offered valuable insights, and she knew that she was also respected for it. But what she noted is that quite often when she made suggestions, someone would jump in and say, oh no, Indra, that's too theoretical, right? And then she said a few minutes later, a man would suggest exact same thing, using the same words, and be congratulated for his fantastic and insightful idea, right? So eventually she had enough of that behavior, and on one occasion leaned over to a senior operating executive, right? And then loudly asked him to bring up a thought of hers, right, her idea, and then noted, otherwise it will be viewed as too theoretical. So why don't you, senior operating executive, speak my idea? And she said that really ended the too theoretical comments that she was hearing. Going back to what Shri also noted earlier, right? How when she's in a room and she sees a woman speak up, right? She finds it to be very powerful. It again reminded me of another Indra Nooyi story where she talked about how in the boardroom, unfortunately, female representation is very small, and even to this day in the boardrooms. And Indra talked about her experience, how often she basically had to put up with a couple of men thinking that it was absolutely okay to talk over her and also interrupt her in the mid-sentence, right? So Indra found that really unacceptable and tried not to cause too much trouble about it. However, in the very same boardroom, a lady named Sharon Rockefeller, who was a very of the board for like over 30 years or something, on one occasion, she basically said that she spoke to men and she said that she has had enough, that this kind of behavior of interrupting her constantly had to stop. And Indra said just seeing that was very powerful, which is what Shri was noting before, right? How Sharon being so direct, firm, and public, everyone got in the message and it really stopped. I think that's incredibly important, right? So common reason, unfortunately, why women face the backlash for speaking up are because of the gender stereotypes as well as the power dynamics. Women are often underrepresented or marginalized in the positions of power and influence. And every time, whether they speak up, whether it's in business or politics or academia, as I noted before, when they do speak up, someone might perceive that as challenging the status quo or even possibly threatening the existing power structure. So it is a challenging challenging environment to be in.
Yeah, and very good kind of examples. And I think it's important. That's why it's so important for there to be representation so that one can hear that voice. And however that voice is speaking, instead of going back to the voice and saying, you can't say that because If I can't say something that I'm thinking and feeling, then what do I say? Then I will be quiet. So that's the whole point of being able to be authentic. And authenticity, yeah, make sure to be kind and all of those good things. Sure. But let's give that form. Just say it like it is then. And everybody, this is how it's going to sound. And let's start getting used to it. And so that is why I feel very happy and excited when I do hear people, women speaking up in meetings, in technical meetings, in technical review meetings. Just say it. Please say it. Not saying it is not an option anymore, because we have our younger generation and they're still like, how come I don't see anybody up there? Has there been backlash? I cannot pinpoint to specific backlash. I don't think it has stopped anyone's careers as far as I know. Just because they spoke up, people might not have liked it, but I think that every gender has that problem of saying something to upset the people around them.
Yeah, I think to add to that, if you are in a meeting and irrespective of the gender, I think it is our responsibility to amplify the voices of those who are not heard, right? And if you do hear a person speaking up, do acknowledge their points, right? And really give them positive feedback and even ask them a follow-up question, right? And if you see someone being ignored or dismissed, you have a task to do, right? Speak up for them and redirect attention back to them. These things do matter.
Yeah. And sometimes it's so nice, right? I think many levels have this issue, right? The introverted versus extroverted, and men, women, the different genders also face this type of an issue, a problem sometimes. So it's really important to think, okay, I have a question. Do I not? And to realize that this might continue to happen. It can happen to me. Just because I spoke this week doesn't mean I'll feel confident or strong enough to speak next week. And to then again, bring up like my courage up to task to say, nope, I've got to say it. And don't worry, just say it. I got to say it. And if I need to do a power pose before I say it, whatever it is I need to do, and then give myself kudos for having said it. Yeah.
And another thing that you both mentioned to some extent is this idea of normalizing women's voices or minority voice or the introvert voice in a room where there aren't other people, that many other people there that are similar, because normally people are not used to listening to those voices, and it's very easy to not respond very well to it, right? To interrupt them in mid-sentence, like you said, to talk over, to ignore. And when it's normalized, when it's normal to see a woman speak with passion, with energy, to disagree openly, to express dissenting views, to talk about concerns, even if she doesn't have a solution yet for it, to say things that are more power oriented, power conversation that normally is not acceptable or seen positively for women. When that becomes normalized, and the only way that's going to become normalized is if it happens more often, if people see it happening over and over again every single meeting. And I think that's why we have a responsibility to be that voice and start the normalization process to happen, and also encourage others and support others and amplify others in their voices too. So I love that.
Yeah. And if it helps to have some allies and to be able to say, look, I'm trying this out. I've had issues where, specifically like Fatima was saying, I would try to speak, and then maybe a colleague would say the same thing, and it'd be like, oh, I really like what you just said. And I'd be like, wait, didn't I just say this? And so I started working with those people to say, look, I'm trying to, and this is me being strategic for myself. Instead of saying, stop stealing my ideas, I just said, I'm trying to be more confident and I need your help, and enlisting their help, so that then they had no choice but to say yes. And Shree's idea, because I already spoke to them ahead of time to say, I'm trying this new thing and can you help me? And everyone wants to help. Whatever that strategy is for you, to be able to figure out and not go into the drama, how dare they say no to me, but to try to go with the flow of the situation, because no one can really say no to logic. And that's why I love Fatima and how she brings facts and figures. Who's going to argue with that? You cannot have a conversation with Fatima without her bringing actual facts and figures. That is like so powerful. End of story.
I think it's important to have these data-driven conversations, right? That's how we can debunk any myths and really come hopefully to meaningful conclusion on how we go about addressing some of these problems.
Because you know how they see sometimes how it can be seen, right? Like it's, oh no, here come the women. But no, we don't go like that. We go with facts and figures and we speak logic. And then people are like, okay, how can I help? And it is amazing to see that. And people that where we feel like, okay, oh, this person may not work with you. We haven't come across that.
Nice. So you just mentioned allyship, right? And it's been a recurring theme in our conversation. So what are some examples where you experienced male allyship, and how can we leverage that? How can we women proactively seek that more out?
Male allyship is actually one of the programs that we have here at Qualcomm Women Employee Network, our San Diego chapter. It is all about the act of supporting and advocating for women in the workplace and actually beyond, right? It is a way of using one's privilege and power to create a more inclusive and equitable environment for everyone. For instance, one example of male allyship in entertainment industry took place in 2020, the year of pandemic, when Bradley Cooper, who is an actor and director, he basically revealed that he shared his salary with his female co-star in order to ensure equal pay. And he noted that he was inspired by his friend, Jennifer Lawrence, who at the time wrote an essay on the gender pay gap in Hollywood, right? So his goal was to create a more transparent and fair system for everyone. Now, there are many examples of male allyship that I have seen. It can really go from speaking up when witnessing an offensive joke or maybe inappropriate comment that's communicated towards a female colleague, to just simply, as I noted before, amplifying the voices and contributions of women and by the way, other marginalized groups, right? Whatever is that they make, whatever contributions that they bring to the table, it's important to raise awareness about that. Give them credit for their work, right? Acknowledge their achievements and really recommend them for the opportunities. If, for instance, you are in an environment and there is no male allyship put together, both Shri and I would strongly encourage you to do something about it, right? Don't be shy to reach out to your male leaders and managers, asking them to actually become a male ally, right? Let them know why advancing gender equality and equity really should matter to them and why their support will really have a positive impact on the business too, right? Time and time again, studies have shown that with increased gender diversity, long-term value creation and profitability increases too. Last thing that I want to point out is that there are amazing resources to help you learn more about the male allyship, and I would strongly encourage you to explore catalyst.org for more information on this really incredible topic.
Great plug-in. Yeah, I think, like I said, Fatima has her facts and figures all set up because it's true. It is monetarily speaking, if money talks, then there's proof that having that diverse thought actually will help. How can it not? In terms of allyship and examples of it, it's incredible the way that our male allyship program has been growing here at Qualcomm, and just hearing the perspectives, because we're hearing from men who are saying, we want to help, we don't know how. We want to do something, we need the tools. And so we have legal jumping in to help. What does bystander training, or what does bystander interfere? What is it called? Bystander training for, like, how do you intervene, right? As a bystander when you see something happening. And like, people are asking, what is allowed? We want to know because we want to try to do the right thing. And people start off as male allies, but actually it's just allyship, right? It's allyship across the board. When you're seeing it, when you're noticing it, and how you don't have to scold the person if they're doing something openly negative. It's you just figure out a way to strategically include them to be an ally, right? Or include them, be inclusive to make sure people do the right thing. Because I think it's really important for us to know that we all make mistakes. And as a person of whatever I am, I know I don't always get it right. And I'm always getting called out from my own children. Oh, you can't say that anymore. And I'm like, well, what did I even say? So I don't get it. I don't know. I'm not up to snuff. But it's a great time right now because there's so much awareness right now. I don't think there has been this much awareness in humanity up until this point. So let's take advantage of it. Let's work with it. You can't speak up now because you can speak up now because there's a lot more awareness, and people are not just going to do the things they did in the 1970s or 80s or 90s, right? Because we have moved forward.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, right? We are in this together. We are learning together from our mistakes. So
aren't we though, right? Because we come out of meetings and thinking, oh, should I have said something? Yeah. And you don't know, right? It's not easy to just be in a big meeting and just speak up for another person without knowing how to do it. You can't just call up people bad. You can't say that. You can't do that. So you have to figure out what words to use.
Call in instead of maybe calling it out.
Yeah, call it
where it's appropriate, of course.
Yeah, of course. And because no one get people not through making them defensive, but trying to get that agreement. It's not easy. So maybe understanding and acknowledging that is a good place for everyone to be in that easier place to help other people be vulnerable.
Fantastic example of allyship. And this is definitely the best time we've had, and hopefully it will get better. Now, Shri, one of the things that you talked about last time we chatted was this example where you had a female colleague who was in a meeting with her boss, with someone else, I think a senior leader in the organization, and this person was completely ignoring her. And
yeah, they wouldn't look at her. So she would go in with her lead, a male, and then their upper management person could not, if she's talking, he would look at her lead instead, who was a male. So I think my colleague got frustrated and asked her lead to say, look, next time, please notice this because this is bothering me. And her lead noticed it. And he was like, interesting, because you're right. Even though you're talking, he's asking me the questions and looking at me instead. So they strategized. And so the way that they were sitting was the senior person was sitting on one side and my colleague and her lead were sitting across from the senior person. Next time, the lead had an idea, the male lead. He said, why don't I sit next to this guy and you talk? And that would make it sit in front of him and talk. So that would make it so difficult for him to keep turning around to look at me. So he's more forced to look at you. And people come from different backgrounds. People are comfortable with what they're comfortable with, and they're not comfortable with what they're not comfortable with. And everyone is trying to learn. And so I think this was a pretty brilliant move. It did not call anyone out. It's not like HR got involved and everybody had to sit and have this big conversation. It was just a literally moving, little physical adjustment to help this situation come up. And I don't even know if the person knew what they were doing. And hopefully it helped them to get comfortable talking to maybe a female, maybe in the previously. That's also there, right? If there's not enough females in some departments, people may not be comfortable speaking with a female. And we don't know what all is happening behind the scenes, but everyone needs to learn. And that is the best we can do.
Yeah. And what I love about that example is that it's a small moment, right? A specific situation where your colleague was having issues or she was struggling to make herself heard. And in that moment, she requested her leader for help to deal with the situation. And her leader was probably not even aware of the situation. And in that moment, they were able to strategize to deal with that specific situation. And it probably raised awareness for both the men in the room. Yeah. Just by one specific little conversation where your colleague asked for the male allyship. Hey, can you help me here in this moment right now? Even that can be incredibly powerful. Obviously, going and asking male leaders like Fatima, you shared, for their general support and showing them how they can do it, that's also a wonderful way of doing it. But even in a micro way, it can have a significant impact.
Absolutely. And I think now think about the lead and just understanding this type of a scenario can happen, right? And hopefully they're not going to do that type of a thing in future as well. That is the hope. We all make mistakes, emotions take over and whatnot, but the hope is that we can rein it back and try to do the right thing.
Yeah. Ask a male colleague for their salary. Why not?
Exactly.
Take them for a beer and then say, hey, what do you get paid?
Yeah. I think in that aspect, at least in engineering, there is, at least the way I see it, the strides are being made. But yeah, we could use more women. If there are women, I think they're getting paid the same.
Yeah, I think at least where we are, there are checks and balances in place that such disparity does not exist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And going back to authenticity, all of this is authenticity. But when has being authentically yourself really helped drive success?
VP of my organization is just a wonderful example of an authentic leader. Having such strong female role model has encouraged me to grow into a leader who is really focused on creation of teams and cultures where psychological safety is incredible importance. So the more we can be our true selves, the more people around you will actually feel they'll feel the same, right? Come forward and just be themselves. And that absolutely opens up doors to building trust with those around you. And it creates an environment where people feel sharing their thoughts and their ideas, and they just have this sense of belonging. Brené Brown is a fantastic author, psychologist, who once said that psychological safety is the cornerstone of a healthy workplace culture. I wholeheartedly believe in that. And if you want to drive success at your workplace, that is the key. Shri, over to you.
Yes, I can share a story of my own journey. I have been in this industry now for almost 30 years. And for the first half, I'll say, of those 30 years, and it's going to sound a bit sad, but it's not. It's a good story. For the first half of my career, I really struggled with my career because I kept thinking I was in the wrong career. And that's what drove every decision of every day of my life in my career. And to the point where I was really finding it very difficult. And then one day I had an epiphany. I'm sure it was a long time in the coming, and I can't remember how how I landed at my epiphany. But I think I must have just gotten tired of, I couldn't break out into anything else. So I think I just decided one day to say, there's aspects of my job that I like, and started focusing more in that area. And once I made that decision, basically saying I'm going to like aspects of my job, or at least focus on the aspects of my job that I like, I started noticing an immediate change in a very external way. And this came in form of promotions. And I literally started getting promoted every 3 years. Boom. Never asked for any of them before, after, during. I wasn't thinking about promotions when I decided to like my job. And once I decided to like my job, at some point I started to love my job, or the aspects of my job that I liked, I started to love them. And that is where the authenticity really grew for me, because I came from feeling like this imposter who I'm not even in the right career here, to someone who is like, oh my gosh, I love it, love it, love it. And to where I'm getting the jobs, I'm getting the projects, I'm getting continuously put in place of high profile jobs and projects. And clearly, like my husband once told me, like, you must be doing something right because you're doing rather well. And I was like, why don't I just go with that? And decided to trust me finally, not just, am I doing this right or not, to be able to say, I must be doing this right because I'm doing it. I'm still here and I'm thriving, loving it. And so how can something that is, working for me so well not be good for me, right for me? And how am I not killing it to become more confident with it? So being authentic is, I'm learning. I know 30 years later, but that's okay. Better late than never, that I wasn't thinking wrong after all. And I have been authentic. I haven't been anyone else. And I did it my way because that's the only way I know how. But to now say my way works for me, to like actually connect that dot finally, to be able to say, I did it my way. When in doubt, let me ask myself what I should do instead of saying, oh, to be able to bring it back to myself to say, yes, what would Sri do? And trust it. And then just go with it.
Yeah, trust the process, and then don't be too much focused on the outcome.
And that negative, that voice that keeps telling you you don't know what you're doing, or just whatever that negative train of thought, I think Fatima gets a whole lot of toxic positivity from me.
I love it. I'll take everything you can give.
Yeah, no, so great point. So once again, Shri bringing the positivity, and it seemed like it worked. You even got promotions out of it. And Fatima, you talked about how being able to be ourselves, even in leadership roles, creates a more psychologically safe environment for our teams. And I agree with you for sure. And let's always have that little music in our minds. Is it Frank Sinatra? I did it my way.
Yeah, and Bon Jovi.
There it is. We got to think about
Frankie said it.
And trust that our authenticity is enough, that we are enough.
Yeah, because there's no wrong decision, right? Because if I made it, how can it be a wrong decision? It's what I made, and it's what I'm going to stick by it. And if I need to tweak it, for sure, I can tweak it. But I will stand by my decision, mainly because I can't turn back time. So if I need to do it differently, then sure, now I have some evidence to try to do it differently. Maybe if I remember, I'll do it differently. But I'm not going to beat myself up for anything because I don't have to. I don't need to. I don't want to.
Was that how you own your success?
I totally own my success. And sometimes I have to arrive at it, and that's okay too. And there's a key in there too, because I think of myself as a success. And so, and then it's easy. If I didn't think of myself as a success, then this would be hard for me. So I'm going to be easy on myself and call myself a success and enjoy it and continue to thrive in it.
This has been fabulous. I feel more empowered to be myself. And I think it's so critical as well to leverage those allies, be it through, like you mentioned, leadership roles or participating roles in ERGs, in resource groups, or create one. And also leveraging the men or other people around us, other leaders or managers. Everybody can support our voice, our authenticity, and we can support everyone's voice and authenticity. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experience leading as well in shaping a lot of the voices with the women. Yeah, thank you so much.
I was going to just quickly jump in regarding the ownership of the success, if that's okay.
Yes, please do. Please.
So obviously success is subjective, right? And it can mean different things to different people. And for me personally, success means meeting my goals and really having that great sense of accomplishment, which is what Sri was talking about earlier, right? Your question was about how do you go about owning your success, right? And I personally own my success by acknowledging that I worked incredibly hard to get to where I am today. And then at the same time, I am incredibly grateful to my sponsors who believed in me and introduced opportunities for me to demonstrate what I can bring to the table. So I would really encourage everyone to keep track of their accomplishments, right? It really can be so easy to focus on your failures and forget about your successes, but do not let that happen. Keep track of your accomplishments, both big and small, because that will help you keep the sight of the whole picture.
That's beautiful. So ownership, positivity, leveraging the people.
Sponsorship too, right? That's very, very important.
Sponsorship, mentorship, asking for the support,
yes,
helping others, being authentic.
No, it's there. No one goes anywhere without strategy, and figure it out based on who you are.
Strategy and data-driven.
It's all there, right? And it's the different aspects of who people are. And just then you go with which of these speak to you and run with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sri and Fatima, for
Pleasure.
joining us and sharing all of these insights with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibna, for having us.
Thank you for having me.